Hello, science family. We are going to be going over atomic structure and figuring out all the different pieces that help describe an atom and what's in the nucleus, what's outside in that. And you really get a lot of information in a short amount of time from either looking at the symbol of an element or also from the name of the element and its isotope. Really quick recap, that top number on the isotopic symbol, that is the mass number up top. And then on the bottom number, that's going to be what we call the atomic number. All right, and we know that the mass number and atomic number have similarities to other things. The atomic number is the same as the number of protons, so those columns will always be the same. And the mass number is really always the protons plus the neutrons, all right? So from that information, we can start filling in this chart. So let's go. Starting with number 1, we have 29 over 14 SI. When looking on the periodic table, if I look at SI, I know that SI is the element silicon. And what specific isotope is silicon? It's silicon 29. That's telling me that, yes, silicon always has 14 protons, but that means it has even more additional neutrons, and there's a specific amount. So we identify silicon as silicon 29. All right, so the atomic number and the number of protons are the same, and that's this bottom number right here. That's 14. So that means silicon always has 14 protons no matter what. If you look at silicon on the periodic table, you'll notice that it's element 14. If it has any other number of protons, it can't be silicon. If it had one more, it would have 15 protons. That would be phosphorus. If it had one less, that would be 13 protons. It would be aluminum. So the protons really tell you what element that is. Now, since the proton number is 14, we know that all of these we're assuming are neutral. That means that the number of electrons must be equal to the number of protons, because 14 positives plus 14 negatives ends up equaling 0, or a neutral charge. Okay, from there, let's look for mass number. Mass number is given at the top of this isotopic symbol, so that's 29. A lot of people get confused with the mass number. They look on the periodic table and go, wait a minute, silicon is 28.09 about. Why is mass number 29? Well, remember, we're talking about one specific isotope of silicon. So we're not talking about the average of all the different silicon masses and putting on the periodic table. We're talking about silicon has a mass number of 29. Well, where did that 29 come from? Well, remember, mass number is protons plus neutrons. So if we know the protons are 14, what plus 14 would give us 29? It would be 15. So that means that the number of neutrons must be 15, because 15 plus 14 gives you 29. And that's how we figure out the mass number. All right? As we do more of these, hopefully these will become even more and more obvious to you. All right, next up we've got cobalt 58. First of all, I'm going to look for cobalt on the periodic table, and I figure out that cobalt on the periodic table is element 27. So that means it has an atomic number of 27, and it has 27 protons. That's the number it's given on the periodic table, so that's its atomic number. Now, since I can assume cobalt is neutral, it has no charge, I can assume there's the same exact number of electrons as protons. So the 27 protons plus 27 electrons cancel out the positive and negatives, and it's neutral. Okay. Also in the name, the isotope name, it says 58. That 58 is the mass number. And remember, mass number is protons plus neutrons. So if you already know you have 27 protons, what plus 27 would give you the mass number of 28? Well, the answer would be 31. So 31 neutrons plus 27 protons would give you the mass number of 58. All right, we're almost done. Just have to do the isotopic symbol here. Cobalt's symbol, according to the periodic table, is CO. On the bottom of those two numbers is always the atomic number. So that's element 27. On the top is its mass number, and that was given to us. That was 58. And there we go. We finished out an entire row of this chart. Let's do one more together, shall we? All right, whatever object this is, it has a mass number of 58. Ooh, similar to the previous one, but it's not the same element. And why? Because it has 28 protons, not 27. So if I look on the periodic table at element number 28, I see that that element is nickel. Because if it has 28 protons, it can only be nickel. Now, since I know the mass number already is 58, I'm going to put that for the mass number on the name for the isotope. I also looked on the periodic table and figured out that nickel has a symbol of Ni. I know that its mass number is 58, just like cobalt's was, but the reason it's not cobalt and it is nickel is because of these 28 protons. All right, let's fill out the rest of the chart then. Atomic number and number of protons are the same, so that's 28. Since nickel, I'm assuming, is a neutrally charged object, I'm going to assume that the electrons, there's 28 of them to cancel out. And the only last thing I need to do is figure out my number of neutrons. Well, if I have a mass number of 58 and I have 28 protons, what plus 28 would give me 58? And that answer is 30 neutrons. And there you have it. I finished up another row. Hopefully this is a good start for you and you can continue doing this on your own. But this is a great way to get more acquainted with the insides of an atom and how everything relates to everything. If I jump towards the bottom of the worksheet here, you'll notice that it's similar information we're dealing with, but in a different format. It's not in a table anymore. So if you look at number 1, it says this object has 11 protons, 11 electrons, and 10 neutrons. First of all, what would its atomic number be? Well, if it has 11 protons, that means its atomic number is 11. What would its mass number be? Well, protons plus neutrons gives you the mass number. So there's 11 protons plus 10 neutrons for a total of 21 for the mass number. What is the name of the element we're talking about here? Well, if its atomic number is 11, if we look on the periodic table, element 11 is sodium. So we're talking about element sodium here. And more specifically, since it has a mass number of 21, we're talking about the isotope of sodium, 21. Now, what is its charge? Remember, charge is simply going to be protons minus electrons. So if you have 11 protons and you have 11 electrons and subtract them, the overall charge is going to be 0. And that makes sense because there's 11 of each, positive and negative charges, they cancel out. Now, what would the complete symbol be for sodium? Well, sodium symbol is Na. Its mass number we found out is 21, so that's the number, that's the superscript that goes on top. And then the subscript of the smaller number is the atomic number that goes on the bottom. And there you have it. From that information, we could figure out that it was sodium 21. All right, try to do the same for all the rest. Kind of crack the code to figure out from the information you're given and the periodic table, how do you figure out the rest? All right, Science fam, nice job.